Alright, welcome back. I'm here with my host, who I may boast is the best coast to coast. I'm here with Jesse.
I'm not actually the host.
He's okay. Well, he's my co-host, and we're here to talk about NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3. Third, it's weird that they keep coming back to Brooklyn. I suppose with the WWE being based in the sort of northeast area, New York has always been their sort of stomping ground, but they did get a really good reception from the crowd here, so it's not like the crowd is tired of seeing these events either. It's still new and fun every time they do come down, and it's starting to become a big event. We opened up the event with Code Orange. I've never heard of them before, but I might be showing my age, and they were playing, and I don't know, they sounded alright. I more appreciated what they did later on, but yeah, it was an interesting way to, and it definitely felt different from the usual WWE product that you get to have a live band open up the show.
Because they've never had that before.
But it's like, it definitely feels like it's geared towards a different sort of thing. Like, if WWE Raw is so structured and everything, and while NXT is as structured, it felt more like, yeah, you went into a back alley show and there is wrestling happening and there's a live band there and blah, blah, blah. But it gave it a good atmosphere, or even a different atmosphere to what we're used to with the main roster. First up, and I think it was good that these guys got to go out there first, Johnny Gargano versus Andrade Cien Almas with his new manager, Zelina Vega. So I've talked about these two guys quite a bit with Jesse here. Johnny Gargano, when he was part of hashtag DIY, and I always said that I did like Andrade Cien Almas, and I feel like when I sat down and I watched this, I was like, wow, these guys are really good. And I'm not sure if that's because, you know, they're really good, or because, you know, from watching all the main roster stuff, my standards usually get brought down to a level where I'm not even sure if this is regular wrestling anymore.
That's that trick, Stuart.
I suppose, but I mean, either way, it was great to open it up. The crowd was really into it. Everyone was ecstatic, and for these two guys, with I think Johnny Gargano being easily the more over of the two with his days in DIY. But yeah, I did like Andrade's rope backbreaker that he did to Johnny. That was pretty cool. And unfortunately my main form of contention, which will stick through the entire show, except for one match, is that you guys shouldn't start with 2 counts and then just do 2 counts forever. Because, I mean, it's gotten to the point where your crowd makes a joke out of it. So it's like, okay, well, while we would see a match later on that would have a 1 count, it's
a single 1 count.
A single 1 count, but a 1 count nonetheless. It is nice to try and work that audience and make them sort of think, okay, well, they're getting more and more tired. Don't just start off with the 2s, because then they're like, well, what the fuck's happened in the space of there to there? But anyway, he also did that triangle hold where he was dangling from the rope on Johnny, and you made the comment where it's just like, that surely that has to be illegal. I mean, he's using the ropes to do the submission, and there's like, his arm is also on the rope, so it would be like a rope break automatically.
Yeah, he was getting counted out though. So.
This is true. They would, you know, I think the story was that he was going to work on that one arm throughout the entire match, because he would go back and Andrade would just keep working on that arm the entire match, and he even was, I think it was to try and stop the submission that Johnny Gargano was trying to do the whole match. He's like, if I weaken down his arm, it won't be as effective. So that seemed to be how they were progressing with that storyline, at least. They would trade.
He was also able to break that submission at one point too. So.
Yes, he did.
Paid off.
So that's good, and you know, acknowledging that they would, you know, come to blows a number of times, just doing the whole, you know, standard punch you, punch me, punch you, punch me, and then, you know, it devolved because once Andrade open hand slapped Johnny across the face, that's when, they're like, okay, we're not doing this anymore.
Once Andrade did the first legal punch.
Yeah, once he did the first legal move in
like,
wrestling.
You crossed the line here, mate.
It just reminds me of that one guy. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but there was that one dude that walked into a locker room in like the 80s, and he was just like, I heard that this is fake. And then the dude just fucking slaps him as hard as he can in the face. This is like, that's great. And so whenever someone was just like, oh, you can never use the closed fists in wrestling, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, yeah, but, if that is the rule, then at least enforce that rule. I think people have forgotten about that in this day and age. But the crowd was really excited for the show, and one of the moves that I thought, even to me, was like, wow, that looked pretty cool. I haven't seen something like that, was the grounded roundhouse kick, like where he was on the ground and he spun around and kicked him while still being on the ground. I was like, wow, you don't really see much ground defense in that kind of way, where it's like you have to try and keep your opponent away from you. And I was like, I really did like that. And obviously,
really, really solid spots that didn't involve the ropes in that match. I really enjoyed it.
And as far as I can really think of, I don't think they went out onto the floor, at least from my memory.
I feel like they were trying to save all that stuff for the later stuff to come, sort of thing.
And it's really good because it's like, yeah, going to the floor is kind of expected these days, but it's like there is a count out there for a reason. You're not supposed to do it. So it's always nice when you see people figure out, okay, let's find a way to work this match within the actual ring. So, I mean, I think it was Johnny who tried to do the DDT through the ropes that then got, yes, because then he got caught by Andrade, and it was like, man, even that was like great. We had a struggle on the top rope, and I was like, man, this is going for a while. But, I think it ended up with, that was where Almas got caught in that submission that you were talking about earlier, and he was managed to, power out. And not only that, but he staggered towards the posts, and then he just fucking smashed him. Like, he just, what did they call it? A buckle bomb, I think they were saying?
Yeah, the buckle bomb.
And it just, I was like, Jesus, fuck. And, even then he continued to work that left arm. He's like, I'm not, you've already tried that submission, but we're making sure that never comes into play. And it was when Zelina, she managed to throw one of the hashtag DIY shirts towards Johnny, that he saw it and he got distracted. And he's like, oh, my old tag team, which, Almas would capitalize on the distraction and then, pick up the win via pinfall.
Yeah, that was the one part of the match I didn't really like, because you don't really need to have lose uncleanly, just because if the match is good enough, that doesn't hurt anyone.
Yeah,
but they still feel afraid of doing that though. So it's like, oh no, we have to make it so he wins in some bullshit way.
And you made a good point, which is the ref looked like via the cameras that he could have seen that. So it's like that kind of believability is just like, eh. So what I would say to do the same finish is just have Zelina hold up the shirt outside the ring and just call attention to him, and then he just looks at it, and that's when he's just like, oh man, that's my old tag team that I'm still trying to get over, and then you could have the same effect. Even him just turning to look at it, because then the ref would be like, she didn't get involved in the ring. It's all like, it's your fault for looking at it.
It's like Undertaker's own. It's like, oh no, he's getting distracted.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, next we get a shot of, I don't know what they're really called. I think it's Peyton Royce and Billy Kay, the Bogan bitches. But anyway, they were shown with Daniel Bryan, and I was like,
yeah, just the worst box ever.
And I was like, Jesus fuck. And I thought it couldn't get much worse, but then they're just like, and here comes hometown hero Corey Graves. I'm like, oh fuck.
Gotta deal with this fucker again.
And you know what? I'm sure that in months and years to come, eventually I'll just grow accustomed to Corey Graves, and he'll become the new Michael Cole, which is just like,
Michael Cole's the same.
According to Jesse. But it's like,
Michael Cole and Taz, the best.
How can you even put Michael Cole in the same thing as Taz? I mean,
well, you'd have Taz there to do the actual stuff, and then you have Michael Cole there to laugh at.
Well, you see, he's got him in the Koji Katami.
That's definitely the hold.
Oh, man. Well, what was it later on? There was like a flip kick that Drew McIntyre did, And I was just like, I heard them calling it like some by its Japanese name just to make it sound like it was a more fancy technique. I'm like, it's just a running flip. I don't know what you want to. But, you know, I immediately thought of fucking Taz just saying like that chokehold. It's the Koji Katami!
Fucking Taz is great.
But we had Sanity come out next. And
AKA not anything from TNA. Ignore all similarities.
So,
to like 3 different TNA tag teams.
I'm going to get your opinion on Sanity after I just quickly run through the match, because I'd like to talk about how, you know, they feel as a stable to you. But for the beginning, we had Sanity versus the Authors of Pain for the NXT Tag Team Championships. So they're selling that, okay, these guys are chaotic and unpredictable. So the Authors of Pain are, I hate to use this kind of term, but, you know, as a guy who studied and reads about history, I see it as a lot like the Authors of Pain are your conventional warfare, while the Sanity are guerrilla warfare. So they're like, we don't know what to do with the fact that these guys,
somehow Sanity are over.
They're just like, we don't know what to do. We go out there, we just destroy everybody. But then, you know, they'll keep throwing themselves at us, even though they know that, like, for example, Eric Young might distract us, knowing full well that he's going to get the shit kicked out of him just so that Nikki Cross could get a punch into the back of my head. It's just like, I don't know. These guys are weird. And so the Authors
idiots, basically.
So they're selling that the Authors of Pain haven't fought these people with this unconventional style before. This chaotic style is what they were pushing. So
it's cheating style.
The AOP, as soon as they were doing their entrance, because they came in second, they ripped off their masks and ran in immediately to begin the work, because they're like, you know what, let's do this, let's, you know, go after Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf. Let's go after Dane and Wolf and just immediately beat them up, because we got to get as much in before the match actually starts, and, you know, do that. And EY set up a table outside, and he was like, okay, I'm going to set up this table, and hopefully we can, you know, get the Authors of Pain through it. In an interesting move, I kind of thought this might happen, but I didn't sort of predict it this way, because it doesn't happen that often. But because all the match had happened before the bell rung, EY actually took the place of Killian Dane in the match, because he's like, well...
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
We have a big enough stable, might as well do that, right?
Yeah, he's like, well, you know, you've taken a lot of damage, and I just stood back out there, and I'm completely fresh, so why don't we just switch in here, since we've got the Freebird rule, which is like, as long as we all come out to the ring and we select 2 people to wrestle, then that's you know, what we need to do. So, you haven't tagged in yet, you haven't done anything yet, so just switch with me. And the crowd seemed to be really happy with that. The match would continue, and Reza would catch EY into... he'd pretty much get flipped off a calm. Reza would catch him and put him in the Canadian backbreaker. And it would just be like... just smash him down onto the floor, and you're like, okay, that looks cool. And the Authors of Pain are always... Cool. They're always great with those moves that look like they have this high velocity to them, and when they have that grounded...
LOD was good.
I'm not going to say that.
Come at me, Ryan.
But, I mean, they always do things with a level of danger that it just oozes like that, even though they're the same safety as the rest of them. I don't think they're particularly putting anyone extra harm.
They do have like a tinge of menace to it.
Yeah. And it
makes it look like it's impactful.
And so...
They're saying a lot. They're saying in fact a lot.
Yeah, ever since TNA's like sort of gone defunct and it's Global Force now, they're just like, man, what an impact! What an impact this is making! This is such an impact. I'm like, okay.
Calm down, guys.
So, one of the things that got I like Eric Young's facial expressions was he got lifted up by the neck above one of the Authors of Pain, so he was like just dangling in the air, and it's like, that's my chokehold, where it's like, I just fucking lift you up above me, and since I'm taller than you, you'll just fucking choke out, because in a similar like a hangman situation, and I was like, that's cool. And then Wolf came in, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna we'll show everyone that I am strong, and that I am a force to be reckoned with, and he managed to suplex the Authors of Pain. Like, even if it was just only one of them, he was just like, I can do this to someone that's that much heavier than me and that more intimidating. So it really...
That was, like, the best looking... Was that a good looking suplex?
Yes, it was that.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, that looked good. It's better than fucking Brock Lesnar trash.
And there was even, like, a Frankensteiner on the match. Yeah, and I was just like, holy shit. But, when the Authors of Pain would, I think they tried to powerbomb, Eric Young to the, like, fucking ring floor. But then, no, he was on the top of the turnbuckle. And he was like, he was gonna, do a, superplex to one of the Authors of Pain, and so the other Author of Pain's like, no, I'm gonna come up behind you, and I'm gonna flip you, and you're gonna flip EY with you with the momentum and the inertia. But then Nikki Cross grabbed Eric's leg, so it just ended up that
pinned him to the ropes.
Yeah, and so it just ended up that the Authors of Pain just kind of suplexed themselves, and it was just like, yeah, exactly. Like, and he was just like, oh man, that
was a really interesting move. I like that.
And there's a lot of that, and I was like, there was a lot of like really cool things that I didn't expect, and they're kind of unusual for your regular wrestling match. So I was like, man, I was really enjoying watching this stuff, even though I personally am not the biggest fan of the Sanity sort of group. But Nikki would then jump on Akam, I think it was, and Akam would, like, grab her. And he's like, no, you're not jumping on top of me. I'm going to grab you midair. And he then, like, got hit by Dane, who drove them both through that table. I know that Nikki was more protected because she was at, like, the front of it, but they both went down through that table. And it was like, yeah, well, we don't care. She's willing to take the hit, and as long as it puts him out of the game for a bit. And so I'm like, okay, that was cool. And it was nice that Eric Young, he set up the table with that in mind, or at least the AOP going through it, and for once, the person who set it up didn't go through it. And so it was just like, okay, cool. I
feel like Sanity's like doing like a Harlem Globetrotters thing, where it's like they can cheat as much as they want and no one seems to give a shit.
I think people are just happy that there is this faction there, because NXT doesn't really have many massive factions, and they're like, we're happy to see what these guys are going to do. And the reason I thought that, and just jumping ahead just so that I get it done, when EY would jump on... So EY would jump on when Razor being held by Wolf. So in almost... I don't know what you'd call that maneuver, where you see... basically, EY would climb up to the turnbuckle, Wolf held Razor, and then EY just jumped on him after him being held. I'm not sure if there's a particular name for that, but that's what happened, and that caused Wolf to go for the pin, and since no one was there to break it up, since Akam was out through the table, we had new tag champs. We saw the introduction of Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, shrugs, and they attacked the new champions. So,
yeah.
Jesse, how do you feel about the fact that the Authors of Pain no longer NXT Tag Team Champions?
I'm optimistic that maybe they can be introduced into the main roster now.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since they've just, like, basically blown off the whole feud. It's like, okay, here's the new guys that you're fighting. It's like, well, Authors of Pain are basically free right now.
Yeah.
It's a good time for them to throw them up, especially with how popular they are and how good they are.
And I'm not sure how legitimate it would be as an idea, but I thought that maybe that's why they'd been making Breezango wait to find out who's been doing all this damage and stuff. Because,
they're gonna go out in the ring and it's like, oh, whoever did it come out here, then like Elfbay just shows up and destroys them and leaves. And it's like, oh.
And I don't mean this in any... Well, I guess it is disparaging, so, suck it up, because that's what you got me to say. The tag team division, with a few exceptions, kind of suck. Like, there's no real heavy hitters on either brand. There's just everyone in the tag team division are pretty much jokes. Everyone's there to be the comedic people. Even the people that have a level of skill like the Hardys.
Yeah, all the Usos even, like, they're a bit...
And it's all that...
You know what? That's just because the New Day has ruined everything. I feel.
Yeah.
You can't have serious fucking contenders when the New Day are so popular, so everything is based around them.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, well, what about, like, the Bullet Club? And it's just like, well, the club is fucking jobber status ever since they got there.
Ascension? Oh, they're hanging out with fucking New Day for something.
Oh, yeah, it's like they're hanging out with fucking Breezango and eating pies.
I don't mind Ascension now, because it's like, hey, they're not trying to be fucking disrespectful to...
And, you know, that might be it. That might be how they have to get over, because it's just like, they won't get over the other way.
New Day have been using Breezango to get over, so might as well have Ascension do it as well.
Jesse, your thoughts on Sanity?
I don't know. I feel like with how many people are, like, they do some interesting shit in the matches, but I can't fucking cheer for them just because they're cheating over and over again. Like, maybe if you had like another large, maybe like, I don't know, get some new groups together and have that, because like no matter what, it's gonna be like fucking 4v2.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what's oh my god, do they win or don't they win? It's the same problem with New Day. It's like, oh no. And then with Shield, with every single stable, it's, oh, we're a tag team thing, but there's 3 of us or 4 of us. It's just stupid, because there's always one person's just that's out of the ring, just making life difficult for everyone and ruining all these spots. That's
pretty much like, I don't feel like much about them. I know that the crowd really loves them, and they have
people like EY.
Yeah, they have something, I guess. And the reason that I thought, you know, I always thought that it was going to be EY who would hold one of the tag team championships, because I'm like, I feel like they're pushing Dane for, like, he could be a main heavyweight guy, and Nikki Cross could hold the women's belt, and then they'll be like, Sanity holds all the belts.
Yeah.
And that would be, like, something that they could do.
That would require some shit, though.
Yeah. Our next match had Jim Ross, good old JR, come out to announce. And that was...
I got a crowd chant for him.
Yeah. And that was Hideo Itami versus Aleister Black. Now, Hideo Itami comes out, and he's looking, you know, disgruntled as usual. His whole thing now is like, he doesn't care what he has to do to win. He's just like grumpy that he didn't, once he went after the world title, he lost. And he's like, well, yeah. My life is fucking, you know, kind of ruined, so I'm going to just fucking take out my anger on other people. And he even took out his friend Cassius Ohno. So, enter Aleister Black, who is this generation's Baron Corbin, I think? Since Baron Corbin... Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say that Aleister Black had a really, really good opening, and I feel like Code Orange, who just did the live version of his theme, really added something to that. Like, and having him just stand there, you know, take it in for a bit and just walk around. He really... banging behind him. He really did seem like a character out of the olden sort of style of wrestling. He would just be like...
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even that he's doing necessarily a whole bunch of cult-like stuff. It's just he does have this thing about him where he does stand out. He's got this it factor to him where
all of his movements are very
deliberate,
specific.
Yeah.
I like how he holds himself and everything.
Yeah, he carries himself in this very almost... I don't even know how to describe it, but it is someone that you would expect, like, maybe a Vandal Savage, if you're familiar with comics, like, to walk down. It's like, it's not even a superiority thing. It's like, I know for a fact that I'm better than you. There's no ego involved here. It's if we put this... Yeah, it's like, if we have an equation here, mine is the bigger number. And it's just like, that's it. That's what it is. Now, this match would be very focused on the fact that both of them have very powerful kicks. And even the start of the match would focus on the trading of these kicks. And we'd get a guillotine knee drop to Aleister Black on the ropes, which I think led to Hideo. Now, I will say this about Mr. Itami. He did rise a few steps in my books in this match, because I wasn't too particularly impressed with a lot of his matches recently, but I feel like here, having somebody to play off that's like, where it's up to Itami to have the most character in that sort of, he has to be the more open one. He has to be the more, okay, you read my facial expressions, because the other guy is just going to give you this grim solace. So it's up to him to sell the emotion for both people, essentially. So if he's like showing that, so when he went down and started taunting, it's like, okay, so
down, fucking crosses his arms.
Yeah, crosses his arm, crosses his legs, and he's just like, oh yeah, I bet you think you're cool when you do this sort of thing. That was good. I really did like that. And I will say that Aleister Black, pretty early on from, I think, one of those kicks, his nose got busted and was like bleeding, but much to the man's credit.
It was when he was doing the knees, and then he lowers his knee guard to do it again, but then he like sort of fakes him out.
Yeah. Oh man, that was good, by the way, when he was like getting ready to punt kick him, and then he just jumped over him and just sort of hit him with the back of the foot. I was like, man, that level of disrespect is great. And I will say to Mr. Aleister Black, having your nose busted up and then not changing the same expression that you've had all match, and then just having like all the blood coming out of your nose and stuff, and still having that, man, you really fucking sold your character to me then, because I'm like, holy shit, this dude's great. So even if he got backstage and was just like, oh my fucking nose, but it's just like, man, that entire time, that was great.
He was big boss manning it.
Yeah. We got an Avalanche Michinoku driver from Itami, which I thought was really nice, and we got very, very fucking strong drop kicks all over this match. But
kicks for days.
The story of the match, and they kept Mr. Mauro Ranallo. I know you're really trying, and some of your jokes land, some of your jokes don't. Like when you're just like, oh man, there's no sleep till, you know what they say, no sleep till Brooklyn, but I mean, he really wishes he could put him to sleep in Brooklyn. I'm like, okay, you're really fucking trying there, buddy. But at least he does have a character and a presence on the commentary. And I will say that, and it's something that couldn't be said about, like, a Byron Saxton, for example, on Raw or SmackDown. I can't even remember where he is, because he's that irrelevant. So the whole story is like, okay, once he gets that go to sleep, that's it, he's gone. And so Hideo Itami manages to get him up for the go to sleep, and Aleister Black would elbow him a few times, and then hit that fucking amazing roundhouse kick. I think they're calling the Black Mass.
Yeah.
And fucking Itami was down like that, just fucking sold it like a champ. Fucking just face down and then immediately pinned. They're saying if you get hit by the Black Mass, it's all over, and in this case it was. Great stuff. Looking forward to seeing how Aleister Black goes from here. What were your thoughts, Jesse?
I liked Aleister Black probably a bit more than the other guy's. Like he's decent, but I don't know. I feel like he needs to be much better at wrestling in order to
have the lack of like persona that he needs to build up a persona, and it's like you can get by on either promos, charisma, or your ring work, and he's really good with his ring work. He just needs to work on the other two.
Yeah, but Aleister Black is all around pretty good. He could go pretty far. Match itself was decent. I was more impressed with their two previous matches, to be honest, but yeah, it was still pretty good.
Okay. The next matchup was Ember Moon versus Asuka for the NXT Women's Championship. Now,
again.
Yes, again. Now, this is unfortunately one of the unintended side effects of having a long-running champion, or a long-reigning champion, is that you're going to get those double-up matches where it's like, okay, she's fought this person before, she's fought this person before.
Yeah, and especially against someone that's undefeated. Yeah,
and so it's just like, you're going to have to see if they can bring anything new to the table. Before we get started, I think it's worth mentioning that you and I last reviewed the Ember Moon versus Asuka match, or Ember Moon versus Asuka 1. We reviewed that very positively, and from that single showing for you, you had nothing but positive things to say about Ember Moon, and that was her, first match you'd ever seen of hers.
Yeah.
So, going into this match, did you have any expectations for essentially a recreation of that match, or did you think that maybe it was like a one-time wonder kind of thing?
I was hoping to see some more of it. I mean, why not, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was hoping to be like, okay, let's see some of that. Let's recreate some of that magic. And, I mean, we got a drop kick to start the match from Ember Moon.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Ember Moon?
She's this generation's Gangrel.
Oh, man.
She's like a weird werewolf gimmick, which I think is hilarious.
It is pretty funny.
I think it's fine. Her intro is fine. Like, the gimmick's okay, but it's nothing too extraordinary.
Yeah.
I haven't seen much of her promos though, so I couldn't judge her on that particularly. But yeah, she seems pretty good in the ring and everything like that. So yeah,
she is very good in the ring, and this is the match we were talking about earlier when I'm like, there was a 1 count in this match.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank goodness. So Asuka was going to work the shoulder to begin with the match, and the match, I feel like a lot of this match was wear down her shoulder, and then Ember Moon would try and make some sort of comeback. And it would be a very slow, methodical pace to this match, which is because I think the story was being told that I need to be careful with what I do to you, because we've both fought each other before. So it's like, you know what I can bring to the table, and the last time I fought you, I had to cheat. And you're the only person I've ever fought against where I couldn't beat them by natural skill. I had to cheat. And so this time we were going to see, okay, well, maybe this is Ember Moon's time. So we get a snap suplex to Ember Moon. And I'm pretty sure that thing fucking... It hit Ember and she hit the bottom of the turnbuckle.
yeah.
And I was like, Jesus Christ, everyone's going into that. And we saw the invincible move, once again, the butt bump.
Infinite iframes on that.
Yeah, man, I mean, it's invincible on startup.
It somehow hits high and low.
Yeah, man, just fucking unblockable. But, so Asuka did her butt bump, and the crowd, I mean, this crowd was insane. I honestly feel like maybe these guys should have been the main event. Because, like, especially with what we know and what's to come, I feel like Ember Moon versus Asuka, even though it was the second time of these two meeting, this should have been the main event of the pay-per-view. It was great. The crowd always helps to this kind of thing, but once again, as the match would progress, and we'd have a lot of good things to hear, so I mean, I highly recommend you go and see it. Asuka had to cheat again. She hid behind the ref when Ember was about to jump off the top of the ropes. And so she hid behind the ref. And that wasn't it either, because then she started to pull the tights of Ember Moon later on in order to ensure a pin. And the ref caught it.
Yeah, the ref caught it, so there's like, no pin for you.
Exactly. And so, I mean, it's just like, they're really pushing that, like, of everyone, Ember Moon
she's making Asuka sweat.
Yeah, exactly. And we would see that this whole match would be like, okay, what's going to happen? How's this going to go? She's not being able to pin her, so she had to try for the submission. So, since, as we, going back a couple of seconds, Asuka did work on the shoulder for most of the match, Asuka put her into the Asuka lock, and Ember Moon would tap to that. Jesse, your thoughts on the end of this match?
I feel like it wasn't as technically impressive as last time, but I feel like that was part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
That they can't be as flashy as they were, just because like they have to actually try a bit harder to win. So like just the flash isn't going to work as well as it would.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for once, a submission actually makes sense.
Yeah.
In women's division, because every single person has a submission like hold in the women's division of like WWE and in that. So like, at least this time it's like, hey, it's warranted. Because it's part of the story that, well, you can't pin because, like, you tried, that didn't work.
And not only that, but that was the shoulder that she got injured, so she couldn't get her rematch. So it was like, Asuka was even being, like, dirty heel when she was doing that. But man, I thought that was really good. Asuka did retain after Ember Moon did tap out. I'm interested to see what this means for Ember, because it's like...
Yeah, she did tap out.
Yeah, like, will she go after this again? Is this the end?
Ovation, though, so, like, people still like her, but...
So, I mean, we'll see how this goes, but Asuka, like, longest reigning undefeated champion in modern history. So...
Yeah, at this point, I said last time, how do you beat Asuka? I don't...
Yeah.
She's like Brock Lesnar levels of bullshit right now.
Yeah, she's held the belt for even longer, and she hasn't even lost. She's 504 days as the NXT Women's Champion undefeated. She's got a bigger streak than Goldberg, and yeah.
I feel like when she does move up finally, it's going to be like, hey everyone, fucking... gonna fucking check you.
Oh, man. But no, that was... that.
This test for good wrestlers.
That would definitely be in the running for, like, one of the better matches of the night.
Yeah.
Now, our next match was Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Roode for the NXT Championship. Now, I don't know how to feel about this, because it's like, you put Bobby Roode in anything and it's pretty much great, and that entrance will always get the crowd hyped up, and it looked fucking amazing, and yeah, and Drew McIntyre, he had, you know, I'm just trained to hear it, but when it was originally starting, I'm like, Roddy Piper, and then I was like, oh no, it can't be Roddy Piper.
Here is the exhumed corpse of Roddy Piper.
Exactly, I'm like, oh boy. So, this is like, this is weird. I'm not a big fan of Drew McIntyre's current gimmick, which is like, no, NXT belongs to everyone. We are NXT. It's not your NXT. I'm like, that's the fucking... Okay, that's like the cheapest way to be a face. It's like, I'm doing this for you.
It worked, though, because you're fighting Bobby Roode.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm doing this for you guys. And then everyone's like, but we like NXT. We like how it is.
Bobby Roode.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you...
And because of that, not only me, but there was 50-50 in the crowd that some were going like, McIntyre, and the other was Bobby Roode. And it was just like, yeah, like, so some people were like, they probably were going to be upset with either way how this went. So, at the very beginning, one of the main things that they pointed out is that Bobby Roode is going up against someone who is of a physical stature. He's taller than him, and he's broader than him, and so Bobby would sell... He would be like, oh man, I'm a little intimidated here. This is fucking not what I... Man, this is one of those times where it's like, I might have bitten off more than I can chew. But he's like, that's okay. And then while he was all doing that, quickly, he put him into glorious DDT, and it almost hit. And it was almost... Drew McIntyre just got out of it. And so Bobby was just like, aha, I almost had you. You thought that I was fucking scared of you, didn't you? And it was just another way of Bobby Roode doing those amazing facial expressions, and you saw him, you know, get his fingers really close together and be like, it's close, very close, I'm in your head. And then, you know, it was around that time that when Drew got back up and started to deliver some offense that he got some boos. Now, it was like, as I said, half and half, and so every now and again, Bobby the heel would get booed, and it's like, that's fine, he's the heel, but when Drew gets booed and he's the face, it's like, that's no good.
Well, I feel like NXT's crowd in general, it's like, they don't give a shit about the storyline heel and the storyline face.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's a little weird, at least I'm just like, huh. So we get swinging neck breaker to McIntyre, which looked really good. And he... How can I even put that? Like, later on in the match, because this was a full match, like when I say that, it was well-paced and it did go for a long time. McIntyre was able to sit up when he was hanging upside down in that Tree of Woe position on the turnbuckle.
Yeah, and was able to get a move off on.
And I was like, man, I had to agree with the announcers for once, where I'm just like, shit, you have to have a lot of upper body strength to just... Yeah, exactly, to just fucking immediately do that at the, like, drop of a hat and just like, fuck, man, good work. That was impressive. So we would also get a Liger Bomb reversal. We would also get a Claymore kick from Drew McIntyre. And that Claymore kick would hit, and I'm pretty sure that was the time where Bobby Roode went down close to the ropes, and it was 1-2 foot on rope.
Yeah.
And I'm always a big sucker for the foot on the rope.
Yeah, whenever I see foot on the rope, I was like, oh man. Ever since, like, Bobby Heenan as, like, the manager, just, like, hitting this guy and putting the foot on the rope, like, oh, look at these footers on the rope, like, yeah.
Same with, like, Mr. Fuji with his cane, just hook it around the leg and put it on.
That's great.
Oh, man. But yeah, I was like, man, that was cool. Something that I'm not sure how I feel about is Drew was stopped from going outside the ring by the ref, and he's like, no, you can't go out, because then we don't want to have this as a count out. So I'm going to start counting out Bobby Roode. Don't go out there and do this stuff. I'm like, that's weird. I was trying to find, like, a lot of the logic of why the ref would specifically stop him. And then I thought maybe he doesn't want him diving on him while he's down. Maybe he doesn't want that.
Maybe.
But anyway, that didn't stop him, because that's when Drew pulled out that flip kick that fucking barely grazed Bobby.
I was like, oh god, that looked horrible.
Yeah.
Like, that looked dangerous.
And that's it. I was just like, oh, dude.
It looked like he missed him. Like,
yeah.
It was like too fast to the left or whatever. I was like, oh no.
And I was just like,
badly.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, oh, Jesus, dude.
I mean, they don't call them high-risk maneuvers for nothing.
So, I mean, Drew, now having almost crippled himself, makes his way back to the ring to break up the count. With Bobby Roode, throwing him in. Bobby Roode gets up and delivers a spine buster, Arn Anderson style, to Drew McIntyre, and it looked really good. We'd then get a glorious DDT, and we would get a second glorious DDT, but instead of trying to pin him on the second time, he lifted him up to go for the third one. He's like, third for good measure, which would lead into the reversal.
Yep.
And Drew would hit his Claymore kick, and the Claymore kick would not miss its mark this time, and that was the end of the match, with Drew McIntyre winning by pinfall.
Yeah, it does kind of throw out the whole glorious CDT being harsh, but, like, I don't know. Sure, it's fine. It's very face bullshit, so I'll accept it.
How do you feel about Drew McIntyre?
He was impressive in this match.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. See, the problem is if he goes to WWE, it'd be like, well, back to this trash again.
Well, that's one of my fears as well, because I'm like, okay, he comes in, he's got the look, he's got the ring acumen where he can just wrestle almost anyone, and he can also be like, okay, this looks good. He wins the IC belt, he fucking flounders for ages as they don't let him anywhere out of that, fucking ends up as 3MB, then gets released, and then it's just like, okay.
And now he's back, and they're building it back up again.
And so he goes to TNA, he starts the We Are Wrestling Fans thing, similar to his We Are NXT. That catches fire in TNA because he's like, I'm not like the fucking WWE. We're not like the WWE here. And that's why the TNA fans liked it, because they're like, no, we're not like the WWE. We're looking for any alternative. That's why we're here. And so that's why it caught fire.
McIntyre stays there for a while then.
And
sort of like where he's actually used properly.
But that's just it. I mean, if you look at the other member of 3MB, he's fucking world champion right now.
Yeah, but he's the one that can't wrestle, though. That's why he's world champion.
Yeah, in a weird way.
Skill does not equal fucking like fame in WWE.
Oh no, not at all. But how do you feel about
if you fit the storyline? That's when you're famous.
Exactly. I mean, if the WWE can make you, and then they're going to do that. I was going to say, what did you feel about Bobby Roode's loss here?
again, I'm like, well, he could come out, but like, he would definitely have a shadow Authors of Pain. Maybe bring him out different times. Maybe you'll have like a TNA takeover. Or like NWO, but it's just like a bunch of people from TNA all joined together. It's like, oh, I wonder what they're forming a stable for. That'd be cool, but like, yeah.
Yeah, because then we'll have like Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and Bobby Roode.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, here's the fucking TNA main event scene right here.
They call himself the main event hitman or something like that.
Oh, yeah, God.
So he's just slightly off.
Yeah. I was just like, oh, boy. But yeah, that was
Yakuza.
That was NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3. Best match of the night. I'm not sure.
I'm tempted to say the first one.
Yeah. Like that one was really.
It was very good. I did not expect it to be that good because I despise the DIY guy.
Yeah, maybe that's it because it's like, oh fuck, here we go, and then
like, holy shit, though, that was fucking great.
Because
it was a good start, and then it sort of didn't get any better from there, but it definitely stayed just as good. I feel just because the actual people were able to build up more.
I'm gonna say for me personally, I liked Aleister Black versus Hideo Itami.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it had the same level of hype as the first match. But
yeah, no.
And that's it.
I feel like the Itami match was a bit slow for me. Mm-hmm. I feel like the first match was like, oh man, I was really impressed by it because I haven't seen anything of those two guys, and especially what's the Mexican guy called?
Andrade Cien Almas.
Yeah, Andrade. Like he was the way he moved and everything was really. He looked like a Mexican luchador.
Yeah.
That's what I can really appreciate. Like looking at Tigre Uno, that stupid fucking show. It's like, oh man, this is very similar. And like you'd expect him to have the same sort of voice, and everybody's like, oh man.
So yeah, I think that Ember Moon versus Asuka should have been the main event. It should have been it.
Yeah.
But whatever. Bobby Roode's
patriarchy at work, Stuart.
Patriarchy at it again, guys. So NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3. I think it's great. I think you should take a look at it if you've got an afternoon or you want to just sit down and chillax after some work. Just do that. Put it on. You won't be, at a loss here. Everyone was pretty good.
There isn't a bad match.
Yeah, and so it's just like if you're looking for some solid wrestling, turn on NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3. It won't do you wrong.
Better than anything WWE've done recently.
He's not wrong.